Hi, it's Paul from Model Build International. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, link is down there. That way you'll get notified of our reviews, build articles and also the competitions. So today we're going to have a look in the box of a new kit from Platz. This one is a 1/72 F15J with a special decal scheme. Okay, let's have a look, see what we get in the box. To start with, this by Platz. It's 1/72. It's an F15J. I think basically the big difference about this is obviously the decal sheet. It's the 304 Squadron Tengu Warriors 40th anniversary paint scheme. Look on the side. I think that's actually the aircraft that's in the box, AC-24. On the bottom, basically a colour pictures of what you're going to end up with. It's probably just the one decal scheme in here, but we'll see. On this side, a couple of photographs, same on the ends. So let's take the lid off, have a look inside. So we've got instructions, and it's on glossy paper this time. Usually it's just sort of regular paper, but this time it's glossy paper. Similar sort of layout to what we've seen previously when we've done reviews of this kit and an updated version of this, or a kit of an updated version of the F15. So they look quite nice. Yes, as suspected, looks like there's only one decal option. And paint's called out in Mr. Colour and Model Master, and the layout on the back, sprue layout. So how many steps? We've got 9 steps. So there's also underwing armaments and fuel pods as well. So those look quite nice. We'll go into more detail in those when we look through the instructions. Everything's in one bag. I'll just look at this box. There's the decal sheet. I'll scan this. Basically everything you see here, there'll be loads of photographs on the website. The link is under the video down there. So if you have a close-up look for yourself, we'll have a close look at some parts of the as we go through the video, but everything will be on the website. As per usual, Platz's decals there is a lot on them, that they always go into a lot of detail on their decals, but we'll have a close look at that when we look at the instructions. Everything here is in a resealable bag. Okay, there's everything out the box. Clear parts are in their own bag as well to protect them, and they look nice. Weapon sprues, let's have a look here. Attachment points seem nice and small. These Platz's F15 kits are really quite nice, nicely detailed. I've had a look at a couple of these already, and this one's basically probably going to be the same as the F15J that I originally reviewed quite a while ago now. Nose cone is off to one side. You will need to add some weight in that. Some fine detail on some of these parts. Cockpit part. We have 2 of these sprues. Engine exhaust parts, external fuel tanks, engine parts. Again, nice small. Well, the attachment points are reasonable for the size of the thing. The smaller the part, the smaller the attachment points, which is nice. Lots of raised and recessed details on things. No ejector pin marks in awkward places, which is nice. Getting down to engine air intakes and exhausts. Some detail inside those as well. Nose, or the 2 sides of the nose. Again, more recessed detail and also raised detail. And there's the big bits, the 2 wings here, and the main part of the fuselage here, top and bottom, and as you can see there's lots of detail on there. So, looks like a very nice kit. What we'll do now is we shall go through have a quick overview of the F-15J itself, then we'll go into a bit of history about the F-15J in plastic, see what's out there, what's been done, and then we'll go through the steps one at a time and have a quick look at some of the main parts of the build. So, as you're probably aware, the F-15J is a derivative of the F-15. It's a twin-engine, all-weather air superiority fighter. The F-15J is produced under license in Japan, and there's also an F-15DJ twin-seat trainer version, and the F-15J Kai variant, which is an upgrade. Japan's the largest customer of the F-15 outside of the United States, and the F-15J is almost identical to the F-15C with just some Japanese avionics. And this particular boxing is of an aircraft from the 304 Squadron with a very special paint scheme that for the 40th anniversary of the squadron, and it wore this in December 2017 for an air show. Okay, so let's talk a little about the history of this kit in plastic. And I'm talking just about the F-15J here, not about all the other versions of the F-15. So interestingly, there's only actually two kits of this in existence. One is the Hasegawa kit, which first made the light of day in the 70s. And then there's this kit, which first appeared in 2015. And this is Platz, is a third reboxing of it. There was a 2016 reboxing with an upgraded F-15J. And then this is the second kit with special decals to it. So overall, it looks like the Hasegawa one is getting a bit long in the tooth now, and the Platz is a very nice kit when you look at the parts. I will add that Hasegawa did a new tool of this in 1988 as well, so that's their latest version of the kit. But even so, there's over 20 years difference between Hasegawa's last new tool of this and the Platz version. And this kit contains 201 plastic parts and 5 clear parts, and pretty much all of them are used. Okay, so onto the build, starting in step 1 with the cockpit. It's a nicely detailed cockpit. You get an idea with the ejector seat is made of 5 parts, and you also get raised details on the instrument panels. You also have the choice of replacing, either painting the raised details, or there's decals supplied for all the instrument panels as well. You can use those instead. Then move down to step 2 is assembling the front fuselage. Obviously this front fuselage is for the single seat version. I'm still waiting for Platz to replace this particular step with a 2-seat version to make the F-15 DJ. Anyway, on this particular step, don't forget you've got some holes to drill out on the bottom of the fuselage, the nose for aerials that are going to come later, and you also have to add 3 grams of weight in the nose. And at this stage, you also have one part to fit if you're going to have the canopy open, so you need to make a decision on canopy open or closed at this step. And then moving down to step 3, we assemble the engine air trunking. There's some details of the engine in there, but you need a flashlight to actually see it, but there's some details actually inside the trunking. And then you trap that between the top and bottom halves of the fuselage. And the fuselage itself has lots of nice recessed panel lines that will look particularly impressive with the panel line wash. On the next page, step 4, we continue with the second step of the fuselage assembly. Basically adding on the fuselage sides, and add the first part inside the nicely detailed main undercarriage bays. Then we go down to step 5, and you put together the canopy. If you're going to use that open, you'll probably save that till later. The air intakes, you have a choice of having them in the raised or lowered position. And you also have a choice for the air brake. You can have that open or closed. That's obviously, you need to make that decision at this stage as well. And then basically you're just putting the nose of the aircraft onto the main fuselage that you've assembled. Then over the page we start with the nozzle assembly. Each engine nozzle is made up of 21 parts, so there's plenty of scope there for, with some nice painting, you should end up with something that looks quite impressive. Then down to step 7, and we're basically putting together the main wings and adding some parts underneath the aircraft. Wings are made of 3 parts. If you're going to hang things under the wings, you have to drill some holes in the lower parts before you fit them. Obviously add the rudders and the tails at this stage. Lots of small parts going on underneath the aircraft. And at this stage it also mentions fitting the missiles, but you might not fit those till later. If you choose not to fit the missiles, then there's also some of these small parts on not use the missile attachment points. And then onto the last page for the build itself. Step 8 is all about the undercarriage. Put together the undercarriage legs with the wheels, fit those, and also add the undercarriage doors. The undercarriage legs are nicely detailed. A coat of paint and a wash will make those stand out nicely, and the scope to add some wiring as well should you wish. Then down to step 9, which gives you fuel tanks or underwing fuel tanks and a couple of a pylon underneath each wing with a couple of missiles attached. I'd say have a look at the references, because the actual aircraft itself didn't have the missile pylons, but it did have the fuel tanks under the wings, and these fuel tanks have some special decals on them. So overall, if you're going to do it as per it was actually seen at the display, you'll have the fuel tanks, but there won't be any missiles. And that concludes the building part. So now onto the decals and the paints. The paints are all called out in Mr. Colour and Model Master, and they're called out throughout the build as you need them. There's only one decal option for the 40th anniversary paint scheme, and if you look at the decal scheme itself, it's busy. There is a lot of decals in this kit. Platz do seem to go into a lot of detail with the decals. They get every single one is there for accuracy. And then obviously with this being a special paint scheme, there's even more decals to go in there. You've got decals on top of decals in places. But overall you should end up with something that looks really impressive by the time you're done. So an overall conclusion. We'll start with the Platz's F15J is the newest one on the market by quite a long way. It's built to the latest standards, nicely refined panel lines, raised and recessed details, lots of details on the parts that are going to be visible. So it's as good as you're going to get right now for an F15J, and this is the second special decal scheme that they've done, and this one should look quite spectacular. So all in all, if you want something that is modern, accurate, probably going to be quite straightforward to build, it's going to look spectacular on the shelf, then this would be a good kit to go for. Many thanks to Platz for sending it along for us to have a look at.